Now I'd like to introduce to you Mohammad Altura. Mr. Altura is the Chief for Information Technology Sector for CITRA from Kuwait. We thank him very much for coming to speak with us from Kuwait, and we look forward to his remarks. At CITRA, Mr. Altura is responsible for IT governance, public sector, IT industry and development, and national cybersecurity. Previously, he spent 19 years with Microsoft International. It's my great pleasure to introduce to you Mr. Altura to give the next keynote address. Mr. Altura?
Good morning. Thank you, Mr. Tom, for this great event. Distinguished guest, thank you very much for coming in this very challenging weather. That shows even more resilient approach for cybersecurity. CITRA is a communication and information technology regulator in Kuwait, and this is like a trial we do, because usually you see the telecom and the IT regulators are two different agencies. So for us to make things quite more efficient, faster decisions, we decided to merge both under one organizations. And as we know that those two industries always glued together almost in everything. So let me just go by show you the Global Risk Report from the World Economic Forum and how they position cybersecurity as a serious economical threat to every nation. And I've highlighted the purple dots, 3 of them actually related to cybersecurity, and 1 of them is related to not advancing in technology in your nation. As you can see on the top right corner, which is the most dangerous global or economic risk in every country, you see the cyber attacks. And as probably most of you know, Kuwait is an oil state. It's 17,000 kilometers square size, very small. It's number 7 in terms of oil world reserves. So there are so many economies depending on Kuwait, and also Kuwait depends on oil. Very much connected economies. Cyber attacks, definitely for Kuwait, it's a very dangerous business. We have a very expensive critical national infrastructure when it comes to oil industry, when it comes to the financial industry. We have refineries, we have petrochemical plants. We are doing a very intense production operation, number 5 in OPEC. So it is definitely critical to secure Kuwait. And we have also a big digital inclusion in Kuwait. Kuwait probably one of the highest smartphone penetration and LTE networks coverage in its geography, like my colleague in Singapore. Definitely we have to learn a lot from Singapore in the cybersecurity. Well, we have a bit difference that we just started the business, and to improve, we have only one way, which is going up, because there's no going down anymore. So we have to be very effective in our strategy, and I have to thank the US government and the UK government for working with us and helping us to start where they finished and come up with a mature approach to tackle this issue on the national scale. So we basically have to put a vision for the nation and a strategy to be approved by the highest cabinet, which is the Prime Minister. And the vision is to assure a secured and resilient cyberspace and to safeguard our national interest in Kuwait. And we have also to, sorry about that. We have also to ensure that we are working every day to establish and promote a national cybersecurity structure, including capacity development and technical development and legal policies and process within all the critical national infrastructure. We call them CNIs. So moving on this, just wanted to show you the definitions of the economic threats that we have, which is the adverse of technical consequences. As we mentioned, that we have to advance in technology to make sure the economy is becoming more productive and more vibrant. We have to protect our critical national infrastructure, including our networks, our telecom infrastructure, which is very important to our economy. And we have to make sure that we don't get a large-scale cyber attacks so that our economy will be resilient. And of course, the data fraud is an important element. We saw what happened to Facebook. That can also damage some economies as well. So we have simply to make 3 objectives for our national strategy. First, we have to make a national awareness. We have to promote a culture of cyber security that supports safe usage of cyber space. So everybody has to understand cyber in Kuwait. The young, the old, people who, in the workforce of the government agencies, of private sector. It's definitely a public-private partnership. I call it forever journey. It will never end. And to make it successful, we have to work hand in hand with the industry to make everybody's aware. So this is a program that's nobody left behind. The second objective is to safeguard our national interests. So we have identified the agencies and some private companies, which is 1/3 of the total of our CNIs. So they have to become very resilient to save our economy. The third objective is the relationship with the industry, with governments. For example, today I'm very pleased to meet many governments working hand in hand to tackle this issue. And I definitely feel very comfortable when there is a teamwork between industry and governments together as one team to make sure that we are all successful in this journey. So if we look at the first objective of the awareness, we have to definitely use the public-private partnership to make sure that we are promoting this business to everyone. And the mobile operators, for example, they are with us in this journey. They're part of the CNIs, and they are in touch with every single human in my country, so that we can utilize, and leverage their infrastructure so that we can kick off a lot of awareness to everyone. That makes it much easier than just going and doing the advertisements or conferences, because now with the mobile operators and social media, definitely becomes more effective to spread the news about cyber. And we have also to make sure that the academia is in sync in this business. They have to promote cyber. They have to create curriculums and grad school majors for this, because we have to create the engine of generating resources as we go. The second objective is to safeguard our national interests. So we have to establish a national cybersecurity center. Again, this is a similar model. We are a small country, and we definitely feel it's more effective to have one agency that everybody deals with shared responsibility concept. And that agency will definitely have a lot of leverage in terms of having the National Cybersecurity Center, and that should have many aspects to help others, such as the CERT, the National Academy, and the standards and compliance, also the national incident response. All of those functions will be kicked off from the NCC. Our strategy is a 3-year strategy, started late last year, December 2017, and there's so much things to do. Of course, we're not gonna resolve everything because we just started, but we definitely are prioritizing the areas that we should start with now, so that we keeps Kuwait in a resilient stage. So we have to, we're coming to an industry that already exists. A lot of agencies already have their own SOCs, their own standards. So we have to come up and work where they ended. We cannot just start from scratch again. So we have to make sure that all the SOCs in the country are going to be compliant with our SOC and have easy communication between the NCC, the National Cybersecurity Center, and the rest of the agencies and stakeholders. Legal framework is very important, and because it's a shared responsibility, so you have to be clear with your CNIs. What is their role? What is our role? How can we work together? What is the operating model? And with the shared responsibilities. And develop the standards and policy that everybody has to follow. It's like setting a bar that nobody falls under, but they can climb above it. And the relationships are extremely important in this business. I think the information sharing and the communication is critical to make everybody successful, because there is no boundaries for this business. It is coming every day. Every day there is a new challenge, and we have all to, work together and talk together to make sure that we have on the same wavelength, and makes us more stronger to defend our nations. So we have to develop a national reporting mechanism for cyber threats and attacks, so that everybody knows the level of threats that we are dealing with, so everybody proactively becomes more ready. We have to develop also a coordination mechanism to exchange information with governments and industry. This is very important. This is a forever journey, so our relationship is going to develop as we go, and the vulnerabilities will increase as we go. Smart cities, smart governments. As long as we keep adding technology to the business, the more vulnerabilities we will have. So we have to address all of those. And develop also international police partnership, because there's a lot of cyber crimes that happens around the world, and you see some countries know about them and other countries do not know about them. So we have to make sure that we report to the international police all those crimes. So, those behaviors that happens becomes more common to the authorities, so they can really proactively solve them in many cases. And last but not least, the National Information Sharing Partnership that's going to go with the agencies and private sector. PPP, forever journey. So, I call this the magic slide that's gonna definitely show how we're gonna work together. This is the National Cybersecurity Center framework. So if you look at the center of this picture, which is the National Cyber Center, the functionality, it will be information sharing, national incident management response, international CERT activities, business continuity. We definitely will take some responsibility of the most critical systems of the government agencies that cannot stop. They have to run 24 hours by 7, and this is part of our function in the NCC. And of course, the National Cyber Academy, that we do have a big challenge in resources available in this business, and we need to create an engine that's generate those resources as we go. So the CERT and National SOC is going to monitor all the activities that happens to the international internet gateway that we have in Kuwait. CITRA actually owns the gateway, and that makes it easier, so we don't have to cross agency when we need anything. So we will monitor the traffic, what goes inside and outside of the country, to make sure that we have a very clean network. And of course, the mid-space, it is extremely important. The mid-space is the networks that's sitting between people and the gateway. And that's can LTE networks, fiber to home, the government network, all of these has to be secured. And definitely we are looking in that, and we are working partnership with the mobile operators in Kuwait to make the mid-space SOC a successful business. And the mobile operators show very big interest because they have credibility also as they switch their business now, from subscription and telecom, and they're adding more IT services on the top of their business, such as cloud computing and also the mobile services. The CNIs in Kuwait, mainly the oil sector, the utilities, and some government agencies, and the financial sector led by the central bank. These are the main stakeholders of this business. And of course, we have to work very closely to the security agencies, such as the Ministry of Defense and Ministry of Interior. Ministry of Interior also working with us in the e-crime. So we do together some forensics if there is any e-crime that happens in Kuwait or abroad. And Kuwait now have just basically launched a project called Internet Exchange Hub. That's going to a new redundancy fiber line that goes from the east to the west. All of the ocean fiber today, they go through Alexandria when they cross from west to east or east to west. And now we're creating a redundancy in that hub, and that even give us bigger responsibility because that hub will go from Kuwait to Iraq to Turkey into Europe. And that is going to carry 20% redundancy of the existing hub. This is very strategic. Kuwait is financing this project because it's an economic development for Kuwait, and we would like, to make sure that we have the trust of everybody who is using this hub. There is so much national interest in this, also international by our partner, such as US. Definitely want to see a very solid connection in terms of ocean cables between east and west, and this is a great opportunity for us to show that we definitely can take on this responsibility. So if we look at the current challenges of Kuwait, you see this is a very interesting position because you've seen a very advanced models in the previous slides. Now you see a country that's has a very low maturity in cyber, and we need to quickly develop this. So we have to have a very mature and achievable approach. We cannot solve everything in 3 years, but we definitely can reach a resilient level of cyber defense. So our current challenges, basically the maturity level among CNIs varies. You got some people that has sort of an advanced level stage. I would say the banks, sometimes some of the oil sector agencies, they're a bit advanced than other agencies in the government because there was no regulation, so nobody has really invested in that so much during the past time. Our challenge also that we have a lack of cybersecurity policies and governance, and this has to change. The third challenge will be the absence of cybersecurity capacity development. We don't have an engine that develops those resources that we need to make this business successful. And also the culture change, because now there are agencies that they have to change because they are putting a threat on the national level. So culture change is not easy, as we know, and that's a big challenge for us that we have to go through. But we definitely can define the element of success in this business by having a very clear, simple, achievable strategy and a roadmap guidance to the nation. And of course, we have to have a leadership and sponsorship, and we do have that. We have the Higher Defense Committee definitely looking at cyber and facilitate all the challenges that we face to make this business happen. And joint responsibility is a key. It's like we don't want to do everything, and we cannot do everything. We have to share the responsibility with all of our community and CNI, so that we all feel together we have the same challenges and the same effort, and work like a team. Work like a team, moving forward with the transparency across the board. Cybersecurity policies and standards that we are developing is something that's never been introduced before to the market, but we are keen to make that happen. And there has to be a compliance matrix that we have to check on them and to make sure they are compliant with our policies. And we have also a sponsorship from all the way from the cabinet to make that happen. And last but not least, the expertise that we have to generate. We have to come up with a very aggressive plan to make sure that we have resources in the market. So we're tackling it from many directions. We have a trusted fund in CITRA that we are using to send scholarships to the US, to the UK, various universities to study cyber. Meanwhile, we're working with our local universities. We are establishing the academy, and the academy is going to be running by we just going to manage this business, but the industry will deliver the academy program. And this is as far as the public-private partnership. This is a journey that's not going to end, because the vulnerability are increasing, they are changing, and we need to also make sure that we are ready for that. So now at this stage, Kuwait is going through, I would call, phase 0, which is the risk assessment phase. And during that phase, we actually, seeing the level of maturity for each agency and putting a high-level roadmap for each agency, so that for the next 3 years, they have to make sure they are compliant with those roadmap, and we will be working with them to make sure they are in good progress to achieve those roadmaps. Because we have a very short time, 3 years. Usually, it's a first additional strategy. Usually it takes like 5 years to make the nation resilient, but that was a cabinet instruction that we are very immature in terms of cyber, so we need to act very quickly to make sure that the next 3 years we have more resilient nation. And as far as Kuwait, yes, it's a small country, but definitely estimation that Kuwait is going to spend at least 750 million in the next 3 years, on cyber. And that's a huge potential for the industry to come and really invest in Kuwait. And I have to repeat that again, that we do have a regulation in the industry. We're not going to be open for all the industry. We're going to follow the regulation of US and UK because we cannot afford, getting companies that doesn't have maybe the same integrity as the companies that's working with our partners such as the US and UK. We definitely heard a lot of challenges that happens previously with countries that had no regulation for the industry, so they had to, pay extra to fix whatever they have missed for not regulating it. But we don't want to do that because we have only 3 years, and we want to make sure that we are learning from other people's mistakes and moving forward on that. And definitely the academy is one of our priorities now to kick off and create resources to handle such business. So you can go and download our strategy from this link, National Cybersecurity Strategy, State of Kuwait. I think the slides will be uploaded, so you can click on that and download the strategy. It is we try to make it very simple, not too much technical stuff in it, so average person can understand this part of our awareness level, so everyone should understand the strategy and make it easy for them to implement. So That's all I have to say about Kuwait, and I would love to hear your questions.
Thank you. Let's give him a round of applause, please. Mr. Altura, thank you. Questions, please, from the audience. Again, you can ask them by note card or at the microphones that we have here. As you're deciding on your questions, if I could start with one on the current challenges, the 4 current challenges outlined. How can, and given your spending goals over the next several years, how can U.S. industry be most of assistance to you?
That's a good question. Actually, we are lucky because we have a lot of U.S. industry already invested in Kuwait. So they are familiar with our business environment. Companies such as Microsoft, Cisco, and Raytheon, they already exist, and they do have a deep knowledge in the market. So that's helped us a lot. But also, we would like to have, more industry to come in Kuwait and help us, because no one company can do everything. We always have to, complement each other. But definitely, that community is important. And we have now a new law for foreign investments, zero tax. So any foreign companies in Kuwait can open as a local company, and that will be very helpful for them, much cheaper for them to run their business, and gives them more competitive edge, if you will, with them and their partners that's practicing in Kuwait.
Thank you very much. Other questions from the audience? One here.
Walter Rockman's Department of Defense. So you've talked about international partnerships with the U.S. and the U.K. You've talked about the private sector. Can you talk about regional partnerships? For example, will you be working with the Oman RCC or your Saudi neighbors? And what sort of partnerships, what value would you see from these?
Oh, that's a very good question, which thank you for mentioning that. Yes, we do have a very close relationship with all the CERTs in the GCC countries, such as UAE CERT, Qatar, QCERT, and Saudi Arabia. We have been really meeting on ad hoc basis. We've seen each other experiences, but definitely with the third objective that I mentioned is to work with our partners. We are forming a structured relationship with our regional partner and international partner so that we can have more benefit to our strategy implementation.
Thank you very much. Any other questions? If not, we thank you again, Mr. Altura, for coming today. We thank you for providing your insights, for your travel from Kuwait, and for your generosity of time. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Thanks.